If there is a crown jewel of fuck-ups, this is it. What in the hell is up with that? We lost many days of training because of this oversight. Again, we come down to it's your fucking job. Don't you think that little tidbit is kind of important? Holy smokes, Batman, we lost a month. Look, this cannot be allowed to be swept under the rug. Someone needs to have their ass nailed to a cross. Hello everybody, Terrence Popp here with another episode of Live from the Lair. Alright, we're going to continue on with this AAR, see if I can knock it out in this next one. We might have to do 3 total, but don't mind me while I pull on my old man glasses, but I'm not young anymore and I don't have the fucking sniper eyes, so fuck it. Alright, where we left off, I was reading the after action report, and we ended at training and safety. Now we're going to pick up here with units providing training. Okay, we did not request to come here. We requested Fort Lewis or Fort Benning, home of the infantry. The officer that sent us here needs to severely re-examine his priorities. The reason we were sent here is a leap of logic that I, as an NCO, am capable of making. The GSU, in hindsight, should have made severe modifications to their training plans. The GSU personnel should have covered the basics and guidelines from theater and then allow us to drive on training to meet these objectives. The GSU as a unit does not have the knowledge or experience to effectively train an infantry company in combat operations. The GSU should have used the internal knowledge to sharpen the training experience, for example, using our own existing SOPs during the SASO training. Instead, we were told to shut up, get through it, and get the hell out of here. SASO for us should have been combined and with convoys run from the cordon and search area. A lot of these are military terms. Okay, GSU is the unit that was running the actual MOB, and SASO training is what you do at the end to get you ready for theater, which everything they did there was nothing like it was in theater. In fact, I really don't think they followed guidelines or even read the ARs that were coming out of theater at this time. Okay, also QRF should have been run out to engage mortar positions. These are the types of training experience we needed. With more blanks and the motivated OP4 from the cordon and search training would have been most excellent. But again, the suggestions to SFC McKinney fell on deaf ears. That's the NCOIC who was running it at the time. Totally nuked him in here. It probably didn't go well for him, but fuck him. It fell on deaf ears. We were trained like CS or CSS units, and no one had the sense or motivation necessary to change. Shame on you. Here's the funny thing we will take with us to help to keep the mouse out of the house. This was a saying they kept saying to us, well, we're infantry guys. We've been carrying our weapons for decades. And they're telling us, keep your mouse out of the house, which is your finger out of the trigger well. They're fucking idiots. I'm sorry, but this is both incredibly stupid and yet strangely funny at the same time. Second statement that will forever haunt my dreams is guns and eyeballs. It's just damn funny. Okay, standard confusion with training. There were many instances of tasks that were being taught one way in one station, that same task being enforced in a completely different manner at another station. For example, we just completed the squad live fire exercise. We were taught how to bound and move in squad and team elements. The day after the complete squad live fire, we moved to the vehicle live fire range, where they enforced a completely different standard on how to move under fire. As a squad, where a squad live fire focuses on moving and bounding in fire teams. I've been in the infantry for 18 years, and I quickly discern how to move in those situations. On the other hand, the CS and CSS units that have never done this are becoming focused on which technique to be used. The station should coordinate on how the soldiers are being taught and enforce the same standards across the board. This will help cement the tasks into the minds of the soldiers. It's a basic case of the right hand not knowing what the left is doing. Boom, fuck you. Alright, misreading our MOB order. If there is a crown jewel of fuck-ups, this is it. What in the hell is up with that? We lost many days of training because of this oversight. Again, we come down to it's your fucking job. Don't you think that little tidbit is kind of important? Holy smokes, Batman, we lost a month. Look, this cannot be allowed to be swept under the rug. Someone needs to have their ass nailed to a cross, or at least dig a 6x6x6 hole to remember the mistakes like this get people killed. Maintenance. Oh, you're going to love this, gentlemen. Oh my god. I'm getting spun up here. Just bringing all this back. Fucking assholes. We turned our vehicles in for maintenance. We played the game of fill out all the paperwork in quadruplicate. We were told we were good to go. On February 2, 2004, we signed our vehicles out for a test drive. Thank God we did, because almost half developed problems within 10 miles of leaving the facility. Some of the vehicles blew transmissions. Bottom line, we were told that the problems had been fixed and the vehicles were cleared good to go. Good to go into theater. The vehicles were 5-ton trucks. I think there were 3 of them, and Humvees. The whole army is using them. You would think that your maintenance facility would know how to fix them by now. Okay, and I later found out that the transmissions burned up because they didn't put transmission fluid in them. Literally, they handed them off to us, and we took them and they fucking fucked it all up. Those guys, I think that was General Dynamics that ran the Cube. I'm not sure on that though. It said that or a couple other civilians. I know they weren't military. Gun maintenance issues. Perhaps we should throw stones. We turned in a total of 21 M60 machine guns to be TI'd during our stay at Fort Bliss. Okay, TI means technical inspection. Now upon deploying to theater, we have a total of 3 guns that are deficient free. These guns were given a complete inspection just before loadout began. I am a former 18 Bravo, and I also re-inspected these weapons to confirm the gross amount of issues found immediately after the weapons were returned from the Cube. The initial inspection was conducted by Staff Sergeant Carmel, who's now Sergeant First Class and retired. He has attended several other armored courses and has worked as a battalion armor for the 82nd Airborne Division, the 502nd Brigade. Staff Sergeant Carmel worked in this capacity for over 3 years. Needless to say, I trust his opinion. Staff Sergeant Carmel, and I noticed the following list of deficiencies. You're gonna fucking love this, gentlemen. Gun 1. Two cracked barrels, firing pin, spring out of tolerance, ejector worn, below acceptable tolerances, operation rod burred, and sear burred at an uneven. Gun 2, bolt lock leg chipped, extractor pin needs replacing, sear uneven, and rear sight cracked completely through. Gun 3. Let's see, this gun 3. This firearm flat out needs replacing due to the deficiencies so long they can't be listed. Number 4, good to go. Number 5, feeder arm binding, spring out of tolerance. Gun 6, deadline failed to feed, operating rod spring below tolerance, operating rod needs grinding, lock lug chipped and burred, firing pin is below tolerance, barrel flash suppressor loose, missing anchor pins. Gun 7, lock lug broken, needs and bolt head needs replacing. Gun 8, deadline will not feed, operating rod needs grinding, firing pin below tolerance, cotter pins missing from feed tray cover, feed paw indent, forearm will not lock into place. Gun 9, good to go. Gun 10, operating rod spring below tolerance, extractor worn, firing pin below tolerance. Gun 11, new, rebuilt. Gun 12, operating rod spring below tolerance, ejector worn, sear worn, buffer spring fluid needs replacing. Gun 13, fixed during inspection but still old and worn out. Gun 14, firing pin spring below tolerance, ejector worn, sear worn. Gun 15, ejector worn, sear worn, firing pin spring below tolerance. Okay, now I've guns 16, 17, 19, 20, 21. All these guns were from 2nd Platoon, and their platoon sergeant refused to relinquish the weapons to us to be inspected. So he basically took it at face value that his guns were good to go, and he took his men into theater with the guns that were fucked up. Okay, and several of those guns got into situations where they fired one round at a time. These are fucking machine guns, and that fucking platoon sergeant got promoted to first sergeant, and he needs to have his ass fucking kicked. Fuck that guy. Okay, the last one here is gun 18. Sear worn, operating rod needs grinding, firing pin below tolerances, ejector worn, bolt lock lug broken, spare barrel piston frozen. Now these weapons were turned in to be completely fixed and brought up to non-deficient free status. That didn't fucking happen. I have no idea why. From what I heard, my commander signed off and said we're good to go, and he assumed the risk. So my commander, Major Worthless, assumed the risk for 21 M60s, 3 of which were deficient free. The rest were absolute garbage and were dangerous to shoot. That is fucked up, gentlemen. All right. Several M9 pistols and 20 of our M203 grenade launchers had deficiencies as well. None of these were replaced by Ear Cube. Staff Sergeant Carmel fixed all but a few that needed replacement parts. Weapons were turned in with the 2404 and the 2407 forms completely and correctly filled out. These noted all deficiencies, and all weapons were returned untouched with the exception of 1 or 2 weapons quoted by Staff Sergeant Potter, our unit supply rep and NBC NCO, who retired a first sergeant, and he deserved to. He's a good guy. Did your cube even touch these weapons? I think not. Oh man, I could just fucking hear people's asshole slamming shut when I fucking sent this up the fucking chain, because I knew a lot of people were going to get fucked up, because this is bullshit. If you know we're going into harm's way, why would you ensure that our guns would be 100% functional? All right, let me read that again. Start over. I know if we were going to harm's way, you would at least find out and fix our guns to 100% functional. Why would you not do the same for us? Oh wait, I know. Pass the problem along and maybe it'll be fixed down the line. A typical answer, and one we heard repeatedly. Take care of it in Kuwait. Bottom line, your facility did next to nothing. I have no idea why this base was awarded the #1 MOB site in the country. I could believe #1 in bullshit, and I will give you that. Briggs. All right, now this is where you went where you waited for your planes to fly over in the country. Okay, now up until this point, we all believed we're going to go fly to Kuwait. Okay, we didn't know we were going to be flown directly in the country. I'll get to that. Biggs. Biggs is nothing more than a circus of stupidity, because they're huge circus tents. The security, unless provided internally by units, was notional at best. The tents were roasting hot in the day and freezing cold at night. There were several days there was no heat at all. Let's see, it was the weekend and the civilians would not work. The action that took the cake, you're going to love this. We of the 425 can go into harm's way. Most of us have 15 years or more in the military system, and we have to turn in our ID cards to use the toilet. Who was the numbskull that cooked that up? It sounds to me like something a West Pointer would do. I would like to thank whoever came up with this policy from the bottom of my heart for destroying the last spark of morale and humiliating us one last time before we depart your festering stink hole. All right, the final outbrief. On February 18th, 2004, we were awakened at 0430 to have a final breakfast at the DAG. The General Vane was to give us our motivational departing speech. Breakfast did not show, and neither did the General. One would think that the General Staff would have passed the changes along. But this did not come to pass. General Vane sent a stand-in, a guy by the name of General Yingling, who delivered his speech with gusto. We have a list of predetermined comments that we have listed from past lip service speeches we have attended. The list follows. Good training, hooah. Number 2, hooah. Hearts and minds, embark. Journey and adventure. Finest shoulders, take care of your buddy, Godspeed, good luck, sacrifice, wish I was going, see you in a year, proud, America's proud of you, weapons of mad destruction, war on terror, count the soldiers on your left and right, or count on the soldiers on your left and right, your forefathers fought for freedom. Of this list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of them were hit. So out of a list of 18, he basically hit 1/3 of our predetermined subjects. And I actually won money in the pot for this. We bet on that. It was hilarious. Conclusion. This is not an officer AAR where there is a discussion and recommendations. I don't play that game. We in the National Guard and Army Reserve are not 18-year-old fools that don't know any better. We know we know when there is no support and or no meaningful guidance from higher. We are an average of 30 to 35 years old with bachelor's degrees under our belt, or 25 years of hard life experience to call upon. When and if any soldier from this MOB site is killed or wounded, his family will get a copy of this AR, so every senator and representative in every state will receive a copy of this, and you can explain to them and all of America why you miserably failed at your task. 24 rounds to 0, 40 rounds to qualify, 120 rounds for urban convoy operation, 60 rounds for reflexive fire, 100 rounds for squad live fire, 50 rounds blank fire convoy operations, 80 rounds of live fire convoy operations, 16 TP and 9 HE 40mm grenade rounds, no AT4 firing, 200 rounds per M60 machine gunners only, 200 rounds per 249 SAW gunners only, no Mark 19 rounds, no hand grenades, not allowed to use smoke or any pyro, 2 months to validate an infantry company when our state did it in less than a weekend. 2 months to fix our equipment, December 10 through February 2nd, and half of our vehicles break down on test drive. You do the math. Are we prepared? And this is how I signed it. Master Sergeant Popp, Company F 425 Infantry, former Airborne Ranger, former Green Beret. Sworn statements from the soldiers of the 425 can be provided upon request to validate that this is true events and actually took place during our stay at Fort Bliss. Let the finger pointing begin. Needless to say, gentlemen, by the time this fucking landed, the repercussions came forward. We were told just before we got on the planes, C-5As, that we thought we were going to Kuwait, that we were being flown directly into Iraq. So what this meant that my commander was completely successful at falsifying training records. He signed off on the weapons and the vehicles for being good to go. And he flew us not into Kuwait, he signed off on that too, but directly into country. Because in Kuwait, we would have fired more weapons, we would have fired the crew served weapons more, maybe we would have got some more training, and we could have brought it up to the cadre there that, hey, we were royally fucked and we went to a CSS MOB site instead of an infantry MOB site, and they could have fixed the fucking problems. Now this would have added probably another 4 to 6 weeks onto our deployment, and my commander, Major Worthless, and his First Sergeant Charlie Brown were more than happy to sign off on the risk and accept the fact that men were going to harm's way with weapons that didn't work, completely untrained, in a war zone. People would have fucking died. Action had to be taken. And it is unfortunate that I, as a master sergeant at the time, had a major as the commander, a first sergeant, and 3 captains and 2 first lieutenants above me, and none of them did anything. They just looked the other way. So, at the end of the day, when we got back, I got taken off the E9 list by this commander. I filed an IG complaint against him with the state IG since he was National Guard, and since we're on active duty, I did it with the federal Army IG or Department of Defense IG. Then I notified my senator and representatives to track it as it went through the fucking system, so it wouldn't be swept under the rug. And it took out, and the way it worked out is I received a letter 6 or 7 weeks later that the accusations in the AAR were founded, and Major Worthless was giving a general letter of a GOMAR, which is a general letter of reprimand, basically told to, he's done, out of the military, and he never returned. And he moved to another state, completely in the corner, upper left corner of the state to hide. It's my only guess, is he hiding. When I found this out, I mailed a copy of the IG complaint that I had submitted to the state IG, every unit within a 150-mile radius of his house, and a letter stating, if this man is reinstated into the military, this is going to the news, and I'm going to burn everyone to the fucking ground. All right, now I'll read you the letter when they, that was the letter that took me off the E9 list, and then my rebuttal. And then there's a couple other things that I'll read to you guys in regards to shit that went down in Iraq. And plus, we're gonna, I'm gonna try to get that put together, but we're gonna continue on with the deployment stories. So, guys, I know this had a lot of acronyms and stuff that if you're a civilian, you don't understand what it is. Basically, what this whole AAR did was explain the fact that we wasted 2 months at the MOB site. We lost a month at the MOB site because they did not read our order correctly. And during that 2 months, our vehicles were not fixed, our weapons were not fixed, and we were not trained to Army standard, period. Okay, we were not, especially not if you go by the STRAC manual, which tells you exactly the tasks that need to be done for infantry soldiers moving into combat, period. I think we used like 1/10 to 1/8 of the ammunition allotment that we were supposed to get just for our weapons that we carried, and we were not given, I think we were given like 2% of the ammo we needed to get everyone either FAM fired on the machine guns or qualify the gunners. All right, it didn't fucking happen. All right, now some guys out there get upset at me when I tell them I fucking ruin people's careers and shit like that. Normally, I never do such things. I always try to talk to the person first and work it out. Because, in my book, I mentioned, I wrote a book called The Soldier Soul, The Warrior's Way and the Soldier's Soul. And I explained that sometimes when you get stupid orders, you ask for them to repeat it. Because sometimes stupid doesn't stick the first time around. And then if they don't get it, you tell them to read it to you slowly. Because sometimes when they read it to you slowly, then the stupid fucking actually sticks. That didn't happen. All right. Now, these men of the 425, I've known them for a decade. All right. I've been to weddings. I went to funerals of their relatives. Christenings. I'm a godfather to certain kids. I was the best man at, I think, 6 guys' weddings. I stood up in, probably another 20 more guys throughout the years. I helped them out in the civilian world. I helped them out in the military world. I had guys leave my unit that wanted to go to active duty, and I showed up at 5 in the morning to road march for these guys and run with them to make sure they were good to go. So when they got to active duty, there wasn't a fucking PT deficit for these guys. I wrote letters of recommendation. I wrote letters to senators. I've done all kinds of shit for my men. And I sure as shit was not going to lead them into a meat grinder unprepared at all. And especially when I swore on my life that these men would return alive. All right, been going on for 25 minutes. I'm getting kind of tired. I'll talk to you later.